What's up, everybody?
Howdy.
Colleen here.
Waylon here.
Waylon's doing a titty dance for you.
Doesn't look that good though. It kind of looks like I'm just moving my shoulders.
It's no Terry Crews.
No.
I wanted to
That was a
record.
good one.
I wanted to record a video because I was in this mind stream this morning after I went into Starbucks to get something to eat, some sous vide bites.
Sous vide.
They're so good.
Hold on.
Oh, he still has some. Not that I love Starbucks and what they stand for, but they got some darn good sous vide bites. And they closed down their stations where you get like your napkins, and in the olden days before COVID, it's where you could pour yourself some half and half and some skim milk into your coffee, but that no longer exists anymore.
You can't do that no more?
So, no.
Because I don't want people touching things?
Yeah, exactly. And so there weren't even any napkins. Like, they closed down all the stations. They didn't have anything that you could take.
So they're not even giving people napkins?
I don't know, but there weren't any that you could just readily take on your way out the door.
I know, 'cause
so this got me thinking, because it may be a weird thing to do, but every time we have excess paper napkins, I save them. Yeah. And they're in either side of my car. There's there's 2 spare sets of cutlery in my glove box. And I was like, oh, my habit of having extra supplies came in handy because I wasn't able to access. And so I was prepared for this shortage of napkins. And I know sounds like really stupid. But I have, instead of getting like pissed off that I couldn't get any napkins and now I was going to make a mess in my car or whatever, I was like, nope, I'm prepared. I have all the tools that I need because I thought ahead in case this ever happened. And I went down this rabbit hole of thinking of why being prepared is so important in this day and age. Another example that I have is that I started cutting my hair back in like 2018 because I wasn't going to pay $100 in San Diego for someone to fucking cut my hair. And so I went on YouTube and I learned how to cut my hair myself. It's super easy. I have that luxury because my hair is very straight and thick. So I understand that this is not an option for people who may have thin hair, a specific style, or have curly hair. I understand. I get it. Like, you can't just cut your own hair, but I am choosing to keep the power to be autonomous, so I don't have to rely on other people in case shit hits the fan. And again, as I'm going through this like mind stream while driving up here to the homestead, it got me into this conversation with myself about the posts that I've been seeing between 2 very different schools of thought about gun control, about mask wearing, about all these things that the government has been putting into policy the past year, the past couple years. And I just wanted to make a video that basically talks about where we stand, because I don't want to have to keep repeating myself, honestly. If the same question or the same conversation keeps coming up, I'm just going to direct people to this video, because I don't feel like I want to spend time talking about or defending myself on why I feel the way that I feel. And both of us come from a very common sense perspective on being able to defend ourselves in case shit hits the fan. We are prepared. And this is why I mentioned those things about being prepared, because it comes into, like, sadly, it comes into life or death preparedness, and why people who are willing to be trained and feel confident handling a tool such as a gun or a sword or a sledgehammer or a bow and arrow or an axe. Like, this comes down to any type of tool that you are going to use to defend yourself, but because guns are the hot topic right now, having this conversation, I think, is really important, and explaining where we're coming from and why we're coming from it. Do you want to say anything before I start talking about like some statistics and stuff?
I don't know. I feel like a lot of people that are opposed to guns will be like, oh, well, if you're, trained like in some type of martial art or something like that, that could help protect you or blah, blah, blah. Or some people say opposed to using a knife over like a gun or something like that. But the way I look at it is that if you had the option to de-escalate a situation extremely quickly, because most people are not going to be afraid of a knife.
Right.
Or I was like, or hell, it doesn't even matter. You could know some damn martial art, but what are you gonna do if other person has a gun?
What's a martial art gonna do if someone else has a knife even?
Yeah, no. I was like, that might be able to know enough grappling to try and disarm them with a knife, but
Totally.
they also have to risk that they're gonna get like stabbed or cut, and most likely that person may not know what they're doing, but they might get lucky and stab or cut somebody.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The way I look at it is you want to try to de-escalate a situation as fast as possible, and sometimes just having a firearm on you and the person attacking you and you pointing the firearm at them is enough to make them, fuck off.
Well, you have a real life situation where you were in your car and someone approached your car.
Yeah, I was like, I went out.
No, I don't want the whole story. I just want this situation.
Just the situation.
You were in your car. Someone approached your car.
Yeah, I was just sitting in my car. I mean, I already had my gun in hand because I was in downtown Raleigh, and I'm very by myself and weary. It wouldn't matter what city. You can say it's the safest city in the world. Yeah, I was like, I don't trust it. Yeah. I'm just sitting there, and this, very rather large African American gentleman, so I can be politically correct. Mm-hmm. Comes back. I had my window cracked about probably that much, and he's like banging on it, trying to intimidate me, going, what you got, white boy? Yeah. And I don't know. I guess he thought I was just gonna get scared and throw my wallet at him or something. But I just pulled my gun up, pointed at his direction through the door, and pulled the hammer back and said, I got this. And then he started freaking the hell out. Yeah, freaking the hell. Oh, he didn't walk away. He was just like hands up, like shaking. Yeah. And I just told him to walk backwards to the other end of the parking deck. And the second I stopped staring at him, he just started running. Yeah. And he did exactly what I said.
Yeah. But I think that that's like a perfect example of you aren't doing anything wrong. You're minding your own business. Somebody with ill intent came up to your person and your property, and if you didn't have a gun, what were they going to do? Were they going to try and reach in your window? Were they going to try and get on your vehicle? Were they going to try and open your door, or bust the window or whatever? So you literally had the power to prevent robbing, an injury, or anything else worse, just by showing that you had this weapon, this firearm in your possession, and that gentleman did exactly as you said and left you alone. And how many other situations could be avoided or prevented if someone had legally in their possession a handgun or a pistol and could de-escalate a situation that quickly? How many homicides, how many robberies, how many rapes, how many abductions, how many, you name it, how many of these crimes could be prevented if people were actually trained and confident and carrying legally with a permit, because that's what most good people do. And so if you're up to this point and you're still watching, why, Colleen and Waylon, what proof do you have? Cool. So because everyone got so upset at the police in 2020 and decided to jump on the bandwagon and thinking that defunding the police was a good idea, LA was one city that defunded their police back in 2020 because of political reasons and mass outcry. I'm not disagreeing that there needs to be better training in our police departments. There needs to be better martial arts training to our police officers that they can actually physically handle a situation without using mace, taser, or their gun on their tool belt. I believe that there needs to be respect and compassion throughout every single person on this entire planet, no matter like what your profession. But because LA defunded their police, they saw a 35% on average rise in crime in the past year. Those included all criminal activity across the board. Homicides, robberies, you name it. Crime skyrocketed. So let's just take this example. If you live in a city that defunded the police and you're now seeing a spike in crime, but you have to still go to the grocery store, go to work, go to school, go to public places, you're willing to risk, hi Petey, you're willing to risk just being your own autonomous person when you know your city has seen a spike in criminal activity and you think just knowing martial arts is going to protect you in a city that has a rampant crime increase. Yeah. Now the city of LA is investing even more millions of dollars to get more police officers out onto the streets because they basically said, whoops, this backfired. Because my whole point in all of these conversations that I'm having with people is that criminals will always be criminals. Yeah. There's no changing. There's no getting people more mental health help. There's no teaching people to be better people if you don't support many, many other things. There are many things wrong in our country. There's many things wrong with our broken homes, our culture, our school systems, our lack of community. There's so many things wrong. I completely understand. I am not blind to the fact that there's a lot of broken parts of this conversation that need to be healed. But we need to just think about one thing. Criminals are always going to be criminals. Yeah. Bad people are always going to be bad people. They are going to steal weapons. They are going to they're going to make them, or they're going to black market purchase them, because that's just how it is. There's a will, there's a way.
There's a will, there's a way.
So it comes down to that very basic point, is that no matter what you do, there's always going to be bad people out there. Yep. We can't help that. You literally, within your person, cannot change another person. So if you're in a situation where you're coming across someone who has ill intent towards you, you're not going to make them a good person in that moment and be like, oh, I'm a good person. Please don't hurt me. Please don't hurt my family. Please don't hurt the people that are around me. Like, everything's okay. We won't judge you. You're not talking your way out of a situation when someone has a gun pointed at you or a knife pointed at you or is screaming at you to demand you to do something. Like Waylon said, you only have one option to de-escalate a situation as quickly as possible. Yeah. If you are choosing not to carry a firearm on you and you want to outrun a situation, be my guest. Yeah. If you want to try and run away, go for it. If you want to hide, go for it. If you want to try and talk someone out of a situation, those are your rights. It is within my right to be able to defend and match whatever that criminal is coming at me with, or a better weapon, and I should be able to protect as quickly as possible and as safely and under control as possible a situation where a quote-unquote bad person is trying to do harm. Because why should criminals outnumber people who are trying to do good? They shouldn't. But right now, that's what our government is doing. Our government is basically saying, let's not have police officers because we're defunding the police. Let's just see what happens. And maybe people will be better.
Oh, bias.
We just saw it in LA.
You just
crime went up.
Crime went up. I was like, hell. I really don't want to have to use Australia as a fucking example.
Well, people may not know what happened in Australia, so can you share?
Well, basically, so a lot of people on the left's defense of getting rid of firearms is they always want to use the Australia gun buyback thing as an example. And there's a video out there on YouTube. You can watch it. where it's like this news like story or whatever. So they decided, I forgot, I guess there was like some mass shooting or something that happened. There was enough public outcry to where they decided, all right, we're going to, like limit like the firearms people can own down to like a ridiculous, like what they could still own. And so, they're doing the
legally. You have to remember that these are registered firearms that the government says, oh, you own 10 on record. You have these 10 things. Now you're only allowed to have 2. Yeah. So you have to sell back 8 of them. But that's not for criminals who have unregistered firearms. Yeah. They still get to keep all their weapons.
Well, anyway, so the people were forced into the situation where they wanted to be a law-abiding citizen and go by the law. They had to, sell their guns back to the government. The government destroyed the guns. Great. And then all of a sudden you see crime skyrocket. I forget the percentage, but it was like ridiculous. Yeah. It was like overnight, like skyrocketed, like probably over 50% or something.
And why do you think that is?
Well, it's because criminals are like, all right, well, now that we know that the chances of people owning a gun now are slim to none, and if they do have them, they have to be completely locked up and stuff like that for them to be a law-abiding citizen so we can take advantage of the situation.
So you're seeing like more like home break-ins and car break-ins.
That was like one example that they gave. There was like an old elderly man. They broke into his home and beat the living hell out of him and tortured him and shit.
That's so
and
sad.
Then stole the stuff.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
So we have all the examples from around the world, not just our country. Yeah. Australia is considered a first world country. And so we can just see the examples. But again, that's not what the media, the mass media, the popular media is not going to talk about these situations because they are trying to sway you to thinking one way versus the other. And we're talking about what we're talking about right now is just a very common sense, realistic approach to all these situations that are happening. My second example is Oregon just decriminalized all drugs, including hard drugs, heroin, cocaine. They're now decriminalized. They carry a very small sentence. And the point that the government is trying to make is that they want to switch the idea that being on drugs is a criminal offense and it's a mental health issue. 100% agree. I am not denying that if you are choosing to be on any type of drug that you have some emotional and mental stuff that you have to work through. I agree with that 100%. But what has now happened is that you now have more people possessing, selling, making, and taking all of these drugs because now there is no repercussion of criminal what's the word I'm trying to say? Like there is a very small criminal charge against you now for any of those things. So they're willing to take the risk because now it's not a prison sentence. Now it's just a fine. And they're like, whatever, I'll just pay the fine and I can continue using or dealing or whatever they're doing. And in 2020 alone in Oregon, there was at least a 40% increase in drug overdoses just in Oregon alone. And the fact that I learned was that 1 to 2 people in Oregon die of overdose every single day. It's a massive problem before they decriminalized the hard drugs. So now I looked for probably 10 minutes to find some stats and some data of 2021 thus far in Oregon, and I couldn't find anything. Maybe because it's not populated yet. Yeah. Maybe because they don't want anyone to know.
Yep, I wouldn't be surprised with that.
But the fact that in 2020 alone, there was already at least a 40% increase in drug overdose deaths, that is terrifying to me because now you are in a society, you are now in a culture that anyone can just be walking down the street. You are more likely to run into someone that is high off their mind off of heroin, cocaine. What's the new drug that everyone's dying of? Fentanyl. Now, and we have drugs that are mixed with fentanyl, like cocaine and heroin. That's why people are overdosing because they're so strong. But you now have a greater chance of running into someone who's high off their mind off of these drugs because there is less risk of the punishment. And again, you're just expecting people, like the good people that are just trying to live their lives, to not be able to defend themselves against someone going apeshit, like running around. They don't know what they're doing.
Mention, like, these people being high off their minds and driving.
Oh, yeah, that's so scary.
It's right up there with, like, being intoxicated and driving.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. It's like, you can say, oh, well, I can handle myself better high than when I'm drunk. But then again, we're talking, that's like marijuana people make that defense. But it's just like, I feel like when you are high on like extremely hard drug, like any of the ones you listed, you are not going to be able to operate a motor vehicle properly. And like, you know, I'm not going to call it an accident, because accident implies there's no one to blame.
Right.
It's like, you know, some type of freaking collision of some kind. But
now, again, like, the government, the lawmakers decided to put this into effect. They are also trying to make it even more difficult and rigorous for people who actually want guns for the right reason, to defend themselves, to defend their business, to defend their property, to defend their family against the criminals, the people high as a kite, who are going to become more prevalent. There are statistics. We didn't do a good job preparing about all the statistics.
Nah.
We'll link some in the videos that we find later on. But we see the trends, and they are not good. They are not in favor of our society becoming any more less crazy. And so my belief on everything in life is be prepared as possible, to stay as safe as possible, to live your life as calmly and safely as you can. If I have to defend myself with a firearm and I kill somebody, am I going to feel bad? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That's not okay. That is never in my life's goal, is it to take someone out. I'm not a soldier in the military. I didn't sign up for potentially taking people out. But at the end of the day, I want to live. Yeah. I want my family to live. I want my property to remain my property. And no one high as a kite or with ill intent is going to come in and just take it. Like, that's not okay. And we need, as good citizens, as law-abiding citizens, to have the right, because I am choosing not to be a criminal, and I am also choosing not to be a drug addict or on drugs. So why is it negative that I want to be a good citizen and own a firearm or firearms? Why is that, to some people, unjust? But we can let people be criminals and be drug users, and that's okay because it's a mental health issue. Nope, it's their choice. Yeah. Like, it's their choice. You know, they can choose to get mental health support.
Their body, their choice.
Their body, their choice. So I'm saying it is our choice to be good people. Yeah. So we should be able to do what good people should be allowed to do for our society against people who are choosing to be negatives, to be drains, to be whatever else you want to call bad people, quote unquote bad people. We should be allowed, there needs to be some type of balance, because right now we're at the homestead. If we called the police right now, how long would it take them to get here?
Probably half an hour, if not more.
So I'm just supposed to let some deranged human do what they want for half an hour before maybe a police officer rolls up.
That's another example.
That's not okay.
That reminds me of another story I could tell real fast. But neighbor of mine that lives just right down the road, I remember one time her daughter, this when the state fair was going on, and her daughter's calling me saying her mom's freaking out that someone's trying to break into the house. And I went over there with a shotgun, because before I owned a pistol. Mm-hmm. And I went over there. I mean, I didn't see nobody or nothing. And then at first, she was okay with not calling the cops. But then she swore she saw somebody in the backyard and, demanded that we call 911. I called 911 and tell them what was going on and everything. But you would think that just me telling them, all right, there was a possible home invasion. As I said, I didn't see anybody, but she claimed she saw somebody, blah, 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 blah. Can you send somebody out? It took an hour before somebody actually came out. So it makes me, yeah. I was like, and that's the, it's like, to me, that shows that you're not taking the situation seriously enough. And two, if it were a serious situation, it makes me even worried. I was like, that's why I've determined it'd probably take them half an hour.
If it was something serious.
If it was something serious.
Yeah.
Because, like, odds are, they're probably, the closest deputy they have is probably closer to Siler City, because there's probably more crime that happens in Siler City, because we're in Chatham County in North Carolina.
Yeah. In
case you guys don't know, as like than any other part of the county.
So, and then people want to, whatever city they're in, they may not live in a place that has longer police response times, so they don't know this information. So now you know the information. There are places where police just don't come. They don't come quickly. Yeah. They don't care. They, whatever. Like, there's so many reasons, and there's so many places that are different from yours and where you're watching this from, where a police response time is longer or shorter. And again, what is going to happen in that time frame for somebody not having a tool at their disposal to defend themselves against someone trying to come in and steal from them, rape them, kill them, take their children, kidnap, whatever. Like, these are happening. Like, getting kidnapped is a very real thing. Yeah. Children being kidnapped is a very real thing. Human trafficking is a very real thing. It's super fucking sad and disgusting, but it is the world that we live in. And so if you are choosing to not have any training on how to defend yourself with your body, with a tool, with a plan in your home for safety, whatever, if you're choosing not to be prepared, that's your choice. I don't feel like it's the right choice in our day and age, because we need to know how to handle ourselves in an emergency situation.
And besides, the point is, the fact is that, so it comes back to the Second Amendment, and a lot of people there on the far left will like debate about the purpose of the Second Amendment, about how, oh, well, that was for muskets and blah 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 or whatever and stuff like that. But they always fail to see the point is that is put in place for us as the people to be able to keep the government in check so they don't become tyrannical. But it just baffles me that you have these people that want to take away people's right to own a firearm, knowing that the repercussions of doing so, it could lead to where we end up
communism,
and like some type of communism, in other words, some type of tyrannical government where one party's in charge, or hell, someone might not even go as far as to make themselves a goddamn emperor or some goddamn shit like that, because they'll have so much power, because we won't be able to fight them with the necessary tools to defend ourselves. But then another point is that a lot of these people will be anti-gun, but you know damn well that most of y'all went out and bought fucking firearms, pardon my language, but bought firearms when all these riots were going around because you were afraid that your homes were going to get attacked and invaded and etc.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people did do that.
Yeah, and they did. And they don't know how to use the firearm and the firearms in their house. They need to be trained. I feel like it should be made a point that everyone is trained to use like a firearm, in my opinion.
Totally. I think a lot of accidents would be prevented if we taught children from a young age, an appropriate age, to how to safely handle it. Don't keep it a secret. Don't keep it like, no, that's off limits. No, we need to be training children how to properly handle it. Adults need to know how to properly handle it. Even if you don't want to own one in your home, here's like the scenario that always plays out because I see too many action movies, is like mayhem breaking out. You're in a public place. Officers show up. There's a shootout. There's something crazy going on. Officer is down. The gun is laying on the ground over there. And you have no idea, or you have an idea of how to use it. You can now pick up that gun off the ground and be able to protect yourself, protect whoever you're with, protect everyone else. I think worst case scenario, because I'm being realistic, because shit has happened in the past 5 years that worst case scenarios are coming true.
Yeah.
And I want to be that person that's an asset, that's not a liability. Be an asset. Be someone who is the hero of a situation. Be the protector. Be the person who's able to stay calm in a situation and be able to direct people to safety. Like, whatever you choose, but you have to practice it. Like, you have to be prepared for it. You have to do the things that need to be done. Even if you never want to own a firearm, get trained so that you know what to do in case ever in your lifetime you have to handle it and you are able to save yourself and whoever you're with. Plain and simple. Like, that's it. Be prepared to stay alive because you can't control crazy. You can't control crazy.
You can't. Don't rely on...
And you can't rely on other people.
You can't rely on other people.
Yep.
I was like, you can't. I was like, and a lot of people... And that's me saying on the far left. I was like, you act like the cops will always be there to help you and save you. The cops are not always going to be there to help you and save you.
Nope.
I was like,
they're stretched so thin.
Yeah, they're stretched so thin, but you could also be in a situation where, guess what? You might not have a cell phone signal or service, and you might not be able to call 911, and you might be able to scream for help, but no one's close enough to hear.
What if you're camping? What if you're in the middle of the woods? What if you're hiking? What if you're doing a leisure activity that you have no cell phone service? Like, that's a great point. Like, what are you going to do if you come across an ill-intended human or an animal? Like, how are you going to survive that?
You need to be self-reliant.
Yep.
All right. Be able to handle yourself.
I think that's good for today.
I'm not done.
Oh, okay. That's good for me. I'm good.
And use the tools that might be necessary to help you de-escalate a situation and save your life.
Yeah.
And the firearm being the best example of de-escalating a situation real fast.
Yep.
From experience, just saying.
Yep.
All right, I'm done.
Oh, okay. See you later.
Live life weird.